Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. How's Eddie Frederick?
So glad you can join us. Well-known journalist in Haiti survives assassination attempt. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Friday, 28th October 2022. Details when we return.
Hubbard's Motor Department Mount Gay and Hubbard's Tire Bay, located at the Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, are reminding the motoring public that another round for licensing and inspection has begun. Just arrived on new shipments of quality furrowed and torque tires to fit all makes and models of vehicles at competitive pricing. Shop early to avoid the hassle of long lines. WhatsApp them on 473-405-5482. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Welcome back. Robertson Alfonsi, who works at a daily newspaper and Magic 9 radio station in the Haitian capital of Port-au-Prince, was reported to be on his way to work on Tuesday when he was shot. He is expected to survive. Tamika Rodney of HGP Regional News reports.
Robertson Alfonsi has undergone 2 operations so far and is hospitalized and expected to recover. The incident highlights a deteriorating security situation in a country rocked by gang violence. Haiti's Ministry of Culture and Communications said it learned with horror the news of the assassination attempt that occurred in the Dalmas neighborhood. His rigor and effort to be impartial and his sense of perfection makes him a model for the profession, the ministry said in a statement. The attack on Alfonsi comes just weeks after Haitian leaders requested the immediate deployment of foreign security forces as the country faces an unprecedented crisis. Also on Tuesday, authorities found the body of another journalist who had been missing for several days. Meanwhile, the president of Haiti's Senate, Joseph Lambert, demanded a judicial investigation.
For the first time in Trinidad and Tobago's history, mass vaccination sites will be used to vaccinate the population for the flu. Health Minister Terence Dialsing said such sites that were used for COVID-19 proved beneficial and will seek to do the same for the flu season. More in this TTT news item.
Health Minister Terence Dialsing received the first of 75,000 influenza vaccines that were ordered to inoculate the population for the current flu season. He said the vaccines arrived on Tuesday and hopes to start the vaccination process on Friday at health centers and Monday at most vaccination sites at the Diwali Nagar, the Paddock, the Sangre Grande Civic Center, Miaro Sports Facility, and the Gulf City Mall Atrium.
It is effective against 2 strains of influenza A and 1 influenza B. So they arrived yesterday. They are being distributed between today and tomorrow.
There have been 564 recorded cases of influenza and 3 deaths for 2022 so far. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Roshan Parashram pointed out that there was a flu uptick earlier than expected.
Normally the season runs between October and May of any given period. We're seeing cases beginning to show up in August. Noting in 2021, the early part of 22, as well as 2020, we had very little or no influenza cases being detected.
And the consultant pulmonologist Dr. Sana Mohammed noted that while symptoms between the common cold and the flu are similar, there are some distinguishing features.
Influenza can cause a more rapid deterioration, and you can go from being slightly unwell to seriously ill, requiring hospitalization within a matter of 24 hours.
Minister Dialsing urged high-risk groups to get inoculated, but cautioned that one could still experience flu-like symptoms.
Every year, people say when they get the influenza vaccine, well, I still got the flu. The influenza vaccine is to protect you against the deadly influenza A especially, which causes the pandemic.
The 75,000 doses procured came at a cost of US $285,000. Sonolala, TTT News.
The $18 million awarded to former Finance Minister Karen Nunez Teixeira is described as a signal to local medical professionals to take stock of their actions. Attorney Martin George was speaking on a TV6 morning edition. Nicole M. Romney has more.
The ruling was handed down on Tuesday by the Privy Council after the court found Godview Medical Centre and Dr. Krisendendra Rupchand were negligent in the death of Nunes Teixeira's husband, Russell Teixeira. Attorney at law Martin George says oftentimes doctors make huge mistakes at the cost of people's lives and they must be held to account.
These things, I think, are wake-up calls for the medical profession, and it's not to say that you are trying to punish medical doctors. I think the idea is to ensure that they adhere to the standards.
According to the attorney, the sum awarded was just and fair.
Largest part of this award would have been based upon the loss of prospective earnings or loss of future earnings that is referred to. Remember, Russell was a top-flight insurance executive. He was earning at the highest level. So when you calculate for the last years of his life and you calculate his likely earnings, that is what made this award so high. So we still have to put it in context, and I want the public to understand that this would not apply to the ordinary Joe like me or you.
He says situations like this one force the doctors to do better.
It's through things like this that the medical profession basically has to take stock of itself and say, hey, listen, how can we improve our systems and procedures to avoid things such as this? I mean, because we have seen some alarming and amazing scenarios in our time here.
Russell Teixeira was admitted to the medical facility for elective surgery in 2004 and following the operation died some 8 hours later. Nicole M. Romney, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
St. Kitts and Nevis outlined its intention to boost the creatives industry as part of its government's thrust to stimulate the local economy and give creatives an opportunity to become gainfully self-employed. Glenn Budd of SKN Newsline reports.
One of the areas to be pursued by the Labour-led federal government is the strengthening of the creative sector in support of a robust St. Kitts and Nevis economy. The thrust was indicated in the delivery of the throne speech by Deputy Governor General Marcella Liebert at the ceremonial opening of the National Parliament. Among several wide-ranging goals of the new administration, the throne speech highlighted the urgent necessity to begin diversifying the economy, with the creative industry and financial support services being important on that agenda.
We are committed to providing better options to build up this emerging sector, where people can establish small and medium-sized businesses to create employment for themselves and others. We know that our people are talented and creative, and we are prepared to put these strengths to work for the collective good of our country. We will work assiduously to ensure that the sector is recognized as an important avenue for developing alternative careers and building up wealth. Fundamental to our thrust to develop the creative industries will be the construction of a National Performing Arts Center and Academy. This will constitute a multi-purpose facility that will provide a dedicated space for honing the talents of our young people, hosting of events and staging of shows, which will give young people a platform to showcase their talent, provide valuable exposure, and most importantly, a means to make a decent living. Further, our government will establish clear policies to support creatives in the development of their businesses. This will include the implementation of startup accelerator programs that will focus on stimulating the creative industries and providing young people with seed investment, connections, mentorship, and educational components necessary for success.
The throne speech is customary after a change of government prior to the first business sitting of Parliament. Glenn Bark reporting for SK Newsline.
With more than 100 fatal shootings recorded since the start of the year, Indicom in Jamaica is appealing to members of the public to comply with the security forces to avoid extreme consequences. Nicola Brown of CVM Live reports.
The Independent Commission of Investigations, Indicom, has reported that a total of 116 fatal shootings occurred between January and October this year. Indicom Commissioner Hugh Faulkner is warning members of the public to avoid confrontation with the police.
In January, there were 8 fatalities. February, 13. March was some way midway, those two figures had 10. April, May, June, 9, 6, 7. July 15, August 15, September 13, and now October 20.
The Commissioner notes compliance with the law minimizes violent interactions. Meanwhile, Faulkner says trained security members should question the use of lethal force to prevent extreme consequences.
We believe that any law enforcement body must ask themselves in their own review whether there's an over-reliance on lethal force, whether the circumstances in any particular case would have been suitable for less lethal force to be applied. For example, the use of a baton, the use of pepper spray. You seek to disarm a person.
He adds a tactical approach is significant to give law enforcers the opportunity to protect themselves during confrontation. Nicola Brown, CVM Live.
Misinformation becomes the order of the day as Brazil prepares for its presidential election next week. The rumors, if believed, can be very damaging indeed. Tamika Rodney of HGP Regional News reports.
People on social media say wrongfully that left-wing candidate in Brazil's presidential election plans to close down churches if elected. There are lies that Luiz Lula wants to let men use school toilets next to little girls. And they are falsely alleging that right-wing President Jair Bolsonaro has made comments confessing to cannibalism and pedophilia. Baseless and politically motivated rumors are wiping through social media in Latin America's largest democracy, roiling Brazilian politics much as U.S. politics have been roiled. The onslaught of rumors helped prompt Brazilians last week to enact what some experts call the strictest limits on speech in the country's young democracy. It is a conundrum posed by social media across the world, especially in countries wrangling with the intersection between modern technology and free speech. Brazil has adopted a particularly heavy-handed approach. Experts say that in doing so, authorities have raised questions about the country's commitment to free speech. What is happening in Brazil on Facebook, on YouTube, and other platforms look awfully similar to what is happening in the U.S. around the 2020 election, said Vicky Watt, a campaign director at the U.S.-based activist group Some of Us. An individual post might not have that much reach, but cumulatively over time, having the constant drip has negative consequences, he said.
Hubbard's Motor Department Mount Gay and Hubbard's Tire Bay, located at the Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, are reminding the motoring public that another round for licensing and inspection has begun. Just arrived on new shipments of quality furrowed and torque tires to fit all makes and models of vehicles at competitive pricing. Shop early to avoid the hassle of long lines. WhatsApp them on 473-405-5482. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.